Okay, I'm going to tell you a story that has a couple of different variations across Europe. The one that I am taking the most inspiration from is a lovely picture book by Pete Geordie Wood. This is the story of the dog and the sailor. So, there was a young lad whose name was Reese, and what Reese wanted to do more than anything was go to sea. Go and be a sailor on the high seas with the salt spray and the wind in his hair. That was all he wanted, and his mum was not having it, because Reese was an only son, and if he went off to sea, he would definitely get shipwrecked and eaten by pirates, and everything would go horribly wrong, and she would be left all on her own. So she tried to find him other jobs. She tried to get him a job in the local bakery, and he burnt all the bread. And she tried to get him a job with the local tailor, and all of his seams were lumpy, and nothing matched up properly, and all the buttons were wonky and fell off. And eventually, he'd gone round all of the different jobs he could do in town, and everyone was going, "Come on, look at this kid. Every day he's down at the beach, he's watching those white sails going past. This is all he wants to do. Let him go do it." And so his mum went, okay, if you're going to do this, then at least let me give you what I can. And so she went to the chest at the end of her bed, and she took out a bag with 10 gold coins, all the money that she'd saved, and his father's old sword, and a special pot of salve that would heal any wound. She gave those to Reese and said, "This is all I have to give you, but may it see you well on your journey, and please come back home safely. I don't mind if you come back with treasure or not. I don't need that. I just want you to come home safely." And he said, "Oh, well, Mum, don't you worry." And so he took the gold coins, he took his father's old sword, he took the little pot of salve, he made his way down to where they were looking for crews in one of the nearby villages, and soon he was off on a sailing ship. And it was wonderful. It was amazing. It was everything he had ever wanted, and he loved climbing up on the ropes and making the sails go up and down and all the things that you do on a boat. I don't know, I'm not a boat person. And everything was great. And then there was a great big storm, and the ship got washed up onto some rocks, and it got wrecked, and everybody went into the water, and all of the crew was swept away, and Reese, luckily, got washed up on a shore. A far distant shore, in a place where he didn't know anybody, didn't even know the language, didn't know what he was going to do. Luckily, he still had his pack with him, so he had some gold coins, and gold is a universal language in most places, so he was at least able to get a little bit of food, find somewhere that he could stay for a bit, struggle through basic words to explain that he worked on boats, and he would like to get another job and go off somewhere, but nobody was hiring. And the winds were the wrong direction, and I mean, there might be somewhere, but it would be several days walk over that way, and he didn't know if he could make it. He didn't know if the journey would be safe. The money in his bag got lower and lower, and eventually it was all gone. And it was winter. The weather was filthy and cold. He'd been turfed out of his lodgings, didn't even have spare change to buy himself a sandwich. He made his way down to the beach, and he looked at the dark waves rolling in, and that darkness just seemed to cover him completely. He felt so hopeless. He didn't know what he was going to do. He thought for a moment about filling his pockets up with rocks and just walking into the waves and just being done with it all. And as he was watching the rolling waves, he suddenly noticed that there was a figure out in the waters, out in these stormy waves. There was a head bobbing up and down, coming up for air and then disappearing under the next swell. It was a dog, swimming and swimming and swimming as hard as it could towards the shore, and this dog was losing the fight against the waves. And Reese, seeing this, could not let this stand. He kicked off his boots, he rolled up his sleeves, he dived into the water, and he swam over to the dog, and he got it under his arm, and he made his way back towards the beach, and he hefted the little black dog, tight curls of black fur on its body, and he let it lay there on the beach in the wet sand, choking and spluttering. He said, "It's all right, boy. It's all right. I've got you. You're safe." And he looked at the collar, a little tag that said Prince. "It's all right, Prince. It's all right. You're safe. You're safe now." You're ahead of me. And Prince looked up and said, "You have saved my life, And Reese went, oh my God, a talking dog! He went, no, I'm not really a dog. I've been transformed by a curse. I'm not a dog. We've got to go straight away. My kingdom is in peril. We need to go back there right now. I need you to come with me. You're the person I've been looking for. We need to go right now. Everyone's in danger. And Reese went, slow down, Prince. I don't know if I can help you. I don't know if I'm the right person. I can't even help myself at the moment. I haven't got 2 coins to rub together. I can't feed myself. I certainly can't get you wherever you need to go across the sea. And the little black dog said, oh, money. Oh, if it's money you need, I can sort that out. Pass me your coin purse. And he passed over the empty coin purse. And the dog patted it with his paw and it filled up. Not just 10 gold coins, 100 gold coins. Whoa. Reese had never seen so much money in his life. And the dog went, go do what you need to do. Buy yourself food. Let's go and find somewhere where we can stay for the night. Somewhere nice, mind you. Get yourself some proper clothes. The only thing I ask is that all the money in this bag pay twice what anything is worth. Twice what anything is worth. Twice what anything is worth. And so Reese and Prince went off into town, and now with 100 gold coins, they could go and stay somewhere very nice. They could get the best meals, the finest wines, a very nicely turned out suit for Reese, and a little bejewelled collar for Prince. And everywhere that they went, just as Prince had asked, Reese paid twice what everything was worth. And so the money in the coin purse went down pretty quickly. And after a week or so of this, very well fed, well rested, the money was all gone. And Reese went, well, what do we do now? And Prince said, well, now you're going to help me to save my kingdom. And he tapped the coin purse again and it filled up again, 100 gold coins. And he said, now, what we're going to need is a ship and a trustworthy crew. Use this money to get a ship built and to fill it up with crew that will look after us on this journey, because it is a long journey. We need to go halfway around the world to get to where we're going. So Reese made his way to the shipwrights, and of course everybody knew now he'd been spending twice what everything was worth. This guy, his credit was good. He was a good lad, a good sort. They made sure that he got the best quality materials, the best workers. They made him a beautiful ship. It sang on the water. It was poetry on the ocean. And, of course, the best crew to come and fill it. And so, when the ship was ready to go, they all piled in. Reese was the captain in his very nice captain's outfit. And he would go into the captain's cabin with Prince. And at night, Prince would mark out with his paw the next bit that they would go on their journey. And during the day, Reese was the captain. But at night time, he and the dog would sit in that cabin and just talk with one another. Talk about their lives, talk about how they'd come to be where they were. And Reese talked about his mum back at home and his dream of going out to sea and what had happened with the shipwreck. And Prince talked about the kingdom where he had come from, halfway across the world, that was ruled by a just and kind king. And everything had been good for the people. It was ruled well, and the harvests were good, and the land was treated kindly, and so everyone had everything that they needed. But then one day, something had come up out of the waves. A sea witch had made her way up onto that land. And everybody who saw her, this sea witch had such terrifying beauty that to look at her was to be struck still as stone. And so everybody, entranced, trapped by the fearsome beauty of the sea witch, could do nothing as she walked through the kingdom working her magic. And everywhere she went, she transformed the people into animals. The fishermen she turned into wriggling eels, the shepherds into sheep, the farmers into cows. Coming into the city itself, the people were turned into mice and birds, and opening the doors into the great palace, all of the courtiers were turned into cats and dogs. And then the sea witch had placed herself upon the throne, and with a final flourish of her wand, she had sunk the whole island down below the sea, her kingdom to rule forever. And Prince explained that there had been a little bit of magic left in the palace, and he had taken it and run with it and used it to find the one person who would best be able to break this curse. And the magic had led Prince to Reese. And Reese went, well, I don't know why, but I'll do what I can, of course. And the time passed. It is a long journey halfway around the world. And Rhys and Prince shared more with each other, got to really know one another. There was one particular evening where Prince said, "Rhys, what colour are your eyes? Can't you see them?" "I can't see anything in colour now, not since when I was a human. I can't see the colours in the sunset, I can't see the blue of the ocean, I don't know what colour your eyes are." "Oh, well, they're green." "That's nice, I can imagine that," said Prince, looking at Rhys, and Rhys felt a little bit of a blush in his cheeks. Well, eventually they got to the spot where Prince had marked out on the map, and Rhys rowed out in a little boat, and he dived down, right to the bottom of the sea. And when he got there was the island, sunken down along the sea floor. And as he arrived at the beach of that sunken island, he could walk as if it were the land. He could breathe the water as if it were the air. He could see the abandoned fishing boats with the eels wriggling along, looking at him with strange bright eyes. And he walked up from the beach into fields and hills under the water, where sheep with strangely human eyes and cows followed him as he went. And he made his way down into an underwater kingdom, and at every doorway, in every dark window, there were mice and pigeons watching him. Hopefully, not daring to hope, he made his way up to the great castle. He opened up the doors, and there, arrayed around the court, the unhappiest cats and dogs you have ever seen. And sat in the throne, there, the sea witch of the terrifying beauty. And Rhys looked at her and stood as though he had been turned to stone. And the sea witch stood and said, My, we do not usually get visitors here, and one so handsome." And she came and put one finger underneath Rhys's chin to inspect him. "You are very handsome indeed. Perhaps I will not turn you into an animal. Perhaps I will keep you to be my husband." And Rhys looked at the sea witch and blinked. And the sea witch realised her terrifying beauty did not work on this young man. And he said, "I will be no husband of yours." And he drew the sword at his side and he plunged it into her heart. And she took on her true form as a great sea dragon, screaming and coiling, bursting up through the roof of the palace up towards the waters above. And Rhys, he swam as fast as he could, but by the time his head broke the waves, the battle was in full force. There was the sea dragon locked onto the front of the boat with a terrible storm raging overhead, and she was fighting with Prince, that brave black dog with his teeth and claws bared, doing all that he could to keep the dragon from dragging the ship down into the waters. All of the crew, good and true and trusty men, bailing and mending as they went. And Rhys swam over to the ship, pulled himself up onto the side just in time to see Prince sink his teeth into the dragon's neck, and with one last final scream she disappeared in a puff of red and black and purple smoke. And the skies cleared and the storm quietened, and Rhys ran to where Prince lay fallen on the decks with deep claw wounds in his side, his blood staining the boards. And Rhys picked up his dear close friend, the one that he had travelled all the way around the world with, the one who he had grown so close to. No, you can't die now, not when we're so close, not when we're nearly there. Prince, speak to me. And Prince, his eyes flickered and closed. And Rhys went, the salve that Mum gave me. And he went to the chest in his room and he took out the salve that his mum had given him that would cure any wound. And he went and he painted the salve into those deep wounds. And they healed over. And the blood stopped flowing, and Prince opened his eyes once again, and the two of them hugged each other so tightly. And now, with the skies cleared and the sea witch vanquished, Prince said, "We must go and rescue everyone in the kingdom." So Prince and Rhys dived back down to that underwater kingdom. And when they got to the palace, they went down into the dungeons, and there they found a majestic, noble lion wrapped up in chains. And Prince said, what you need to do is take your sword, cut off the lion's head, cut off his tail, put the tail where the head should be, put the head where the tail should be, and the curse will be reversed. And Rhys went, okay, it's not the weirdest thing I've done, let's be honest. And so he cut off the lion's head, he cut off the lion's tail, he put the tail where the head should be, he put the head where the tail should be, and from that form a blinding bright light started to glow, and it swept through the whole dungeons, up through the palace, up through the kingdom itself, and everywhere that the light touched, the people transformed back into their old forms, and with a great rumbling and shaking, the kingdom rose back up above the waves, and as the seawater dripped off the ruined palace in rainbow fractals, Rhys's eyes cleared from the blinding light, and he saw that there was a lion no longer, but a noble king, with salt and pepper in his beard and tears in his eyes. And he was reaching out to the person next to Rhys and saying, my son, my son. And the king embraced a beautiful young man with tight coils of dark hair on his head. And the prince, for that was who it was, turned and looked at Rhys and said, your eyes are green. Oh, what a green. I will remember that green forever. And the king said, Rhys, you have done this kingdom such a service. You must stay. You must stay. We will give you half the kingdom and my son's hand in marriage if you will take it. And Rhys said, if your son will consent. And Prince said, of course I consent. Oh my goodness. And Rhys went, this is so kind. This is too much. I can't even think about this. This is more than I could ever have dreamed of. But I promised my mum that I would come home safely. And if I stay here for the rest of my days, then as far as my mum is concerned, I've died at sea, and I can't do that to her. I can't do that to her. I must go home. I must go home and let her know that I'm safe. And the king looked grave. The prince was heartbroken. We'd left the dungeons up to his room to sob into his pillow. And the king said, it is a sadness that you must leave us, but family is important. Let us at least give you treasure to take back with you. And so they filled up Rhys's boat with so much treasure that it sank dangerously low in the water. And he made the long journey back across the oceans until he came to the coastlines that he knew so well. And when he got to the little village where his mother lived, she was so surprised to see all of these chests of treasure being hauled out of the boat and taken up into her kitchen, and her son decked out in his fine clothes, the captain of the ship. And he sat down with a cup of tea and he told his mum the story, and she listened. And he told the story over the whole afternoon and into the evening. And he got to the point where they defeated the sea witch, and he'd been offered half the kingdom and the hand of the prince in marriage. And she went, wait, stop. A prince offered you his hand in marriage, and you said no? How have I raised you, boy? You turn around right now, you get back on that boat, you sail back to that island, and you better hope he hasn't changed his mind. And so the mother, who had never wanted her son to go to sea, was chivying him down onto the ship, and he made that journey back to the island, where he asked the prince if they could be married, and the prince said yes. Yay. And as far as I know, they are living there still, happily ever after.
Aww.